on. When you're printing, the whole idea is that you want to have an even print on your paper. To have even print on your paper, you need an even amount of ink on your brayer, or on your linoleum block. This is a brayer. To get an even ink on your linoleum block, you need even ink on your brayer. I'm going to show you how to do that. Alright, so you're going to have ink like this. You're going to take a little spoon of the ink and put it just in the corner. Not in the middle, not in a random haphazard spot. Just in the corner like this. It's really thick. It looks like tar. And you're going to then start rolling the ink. Now, you're not going to take it and just start rolling like that, because you're not going to get an even amount of ink. You're just going to dip the brayer in there, and then you're going to make a little square in the middle. Notice how I'm picking the brayer up and rolling in different directions. You want to keep it to like a square. You don't want the ink to go everywhere all over the place. So the good idea is just to take a little bit of ink and add to it. If you take and scoop too much ink at one time and start spreading the ink all over your tray, you're not going to be able to control your ink, and you can't take the ink off. And then you're going to mess up the ink for everyone else for the day that is using this tray. Now you hear that sticky sound? That's how you know you're getting the right amount of ink on your brayer. So you have to do this several times. And it should look, when you see the texture of it, it'll kind of look like velvety. That's how you know it's the right amount. Now you can always add more ink, but to take ink away, you can't really do that. You just have to kind of print the ink off of it, and I'll explain all that too. So then you're gonna put your tray aside, and you see this paper. You're going to use one side for rolling the ink on, one side for printing, so you don't get. And even if your picture is this way, turn it this way when you're rolling the ink on. Now the trick is to roll the ink on. You roll the ink on slowly. To pick the ink up, you go fast. Now that is still not enough ink for a good print. I have to get more ink onto my tray. So then what I'm going to do is get more ink. Now, some students make this mistake where they take that and then they just start rolling it on here. That would cause a huge problem, because you have all this ink that would make it into the grooves that you carved, and then you'd print a blob. Nobody wants to print a blob. So again, you have to make sure that you take your time, make sure you get even ink on the tray, and then you know you have even ink on your brayer, and then you can come back over here. And when you're notice that I'm going end to end, horizontal lines, verticals, okay? You don't want to just go random like that and fast, because then you won't have an even amount of ink. You won't be able to control your ink. And you probably want to do this like 3 or 4 times. We're going to go for 3 and see how it goes. Notice I'm keeping this and this separate, right? The two shall not merge. Now, when you know that your block is ready to start printing when the black ink looks shiny and even across your linoleum block. Then you're going to put this in the tray. Put the tray aside. You're not going to, don't just put this anywhere. And then you're going to move your block to this side here. The reason for that is you don't want all this around the edges to print on your paper, because it would look awful. Now before you print, write your name on it. That's the back of the paper. And then I'm going to try to put the paper on there as evenly as possible, and write your period on it too, because I've got a bunch of periods that are going to be printing. Once it's down there, don't move it. Then you're going to use the palm of your hand, or you can use the side here, in circles. Give it a good back rub. Okay, make sure you get the edges, the corners. Those are often areas that are missed. You'll see the image starting to come through. That's how you know it's working. Okay, now this is the big reveal. I love this part. And voila. There you go. And that's a pretty good print. It has some little white spots on it. That's okay. Then I'm going to take this and go directly to the drying rack with it. Okay. And then if I want to print more, let's say I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, that print had too much ink or not enough ink. I want to print some more of them, or I just want to print some because this is so much fun. Don't forget to put it back on this side, and then you can add more ink and print again. Most students forget and they start putting ink on this side, and then they have a whole dirty newsprint. You want to have half of it, the left side, ink, no ink on this side, so you have a clean printing surface. Now let's say you had too much ink and there was ink in your grooves. Don't go wash it off. If you want to keep printing that day, just take paper and print it off. Okay, because once you wash it that day, you have to wait till the next day to print because the water will mess up all the prints in the paper. When you've finished printing for the day, you're going to take this and you're going to walk it over to the sink, drop it at the bottom of the sink. I'll just show you. Turn on the warm water. Don't make it all, turn on some of the cold too. And then that water will do most of the work for you. I say bottom of the sink, that way you don't get ink all over the counter and all over yourself. Make sure you get the back of it. There's probably going to be ink on that too. Dry it off with a paper towel. And then place it on the drying rack to dry. And along with your prints. Now make sure your prints have your name on. And the next day you come in and you get your stuff, okay? Now at the end of class, my expectation is anybody that prints has to help clean up. Okay, I'm going to leave this like this as is. When you clean up though, you're going to have to take as much ink as you can. Use your spoon and you're going to scrape as much ink as you can back into the ink jar and close the ink jar and wash these off. Actually, you probably won't have to wash the trays off because we're going to second and third periods printing as well. So you guys are lucky. You'll have to help with the setup. Third period's going to help with the cleanup. And that's it. All right, any questions? So I have 4 trays, so if you are ready to print, you're going to take the tray and set up like this at your table. The trays are here. Here's the brayers are here by the sink. You're going to wash them. That's where they go at the end of class. The newsprint is over here on the shelf. That's where you'll get one for your table to keep the table clean. Any other questions about where things are?
Oh, where's the ink at? The little cool ink.
The ink will be on the counter. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Who's ready to print? All right. Clear off your space here. I'll give you this tray right here. There you go. And I'll give you this newsprint right here. Thank you for everyone's attention.